Good evening, and thank you so much for joining and watching tonight. Please let us know in the comments where you are tuning in from, and hello to everyone on the replay as well. I'm Stephanie Taliaferro, representing the Hope for ATRT Foundation. Hope for ATRT is a research entity focused on directing research and resources to families in the fight against ATRT. And this month, we've been highlighting families in the fight and the impact they're making in the cancer community. If you've missed any of those interviews, you can catch those on our blog. So definitely check those out after this interview. Joining me today is Amie Marzen, mom to ATRT Angel Madeline and founder of Madeline's Mission. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Amie.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's just start by sharing a little bit about you and your family.
So as you said, my name is Amie Marzen. We live in Maine. I am the mother of three: Madeline, who would have been 9 this year, Ben, who is 6 and in first grade, and our rainbow baby, Malia, who is 2.5 going on 12, I think. And I've been married to my husband, Andy, for almost 17 years. And I work from home as a communications consultant and nonprofit manager.
Oh, that's fantastic. Help us get to know Madeline. What was she like? What are some of your special memories?
Oh my goodness. How long do you have? I could talk about Madeline all day long. She was really just a ray of sunshine. And I know I'm definitely cliche and not at all biased, but she was an absolute light to anybody who ever met her. She was just silly. She was just a really happy kid. Completely just normal, silly little kid who loved making up stories and dancing and singing random songs about whatever she was seeing outside the car window. Most of all, she was proud to be a big sister to her brother, Ben, who had just been born and then was about a year old when she was diagnosed. She would introduce people to Ben in Target, unsuspecting pedestrians in Target, just shopping around. She would introduce and say, "You have to meet Ben. He's the greatest."
Oh,
so she was just a really proud big sister who really loved everything about life and loved preschool and her friends and had a nice little community of friends that she was really lucky to have at such a young age, from going to the library music times and all of that. So she was a really special kid. We miss her so much.
Yeah. What are some things that remind you of her now?
Oh gosh, she sends us lots of signs, which is nice. But when I think of her, I think about splashing and puddles. There was one time I had spilled milk on the floor. Some friends and I are doing a gratitude challenge, and this just came up. She spilled a glass of milk on the floor, and her first instinct was to jump in the puddle and just splash. And that's kind of her approach to everything in life. So anytime it rained, we would go for a muddy puddle hunt, and we would go around our block and find the best puddles in town and splash in them and come home filthy. But, it all washes off. So muddy puddles certainly remind me of her. The color red was her favorite. Daniel Tiger, which is a children's show for anyone who's not familiar, based on Mr. Rogers, and the trolley. Gosh, there's just so many things. I could go on forever, but those are some of my top favorite things that make me remind me of her.
Awesome. I love that so much. What a sweet, special girl. When did Madeline's ATRT journey begin?
Oh, well, okay. So she was a normal, just medically boring child, as I like to put it, up until 3 weeks before her 4th birthday. The only medical concern we ever had for her, like she really never even got an ear infection, was that she had a lazy eye. And so we had taken her to the doctor for a lazy eye, and they did strabismus correction surgery and fixed it. But she never really recovered from that surgery fully. It was strange. It's a really simple, basic procedure. Usually they take a weekend and they're back to doing whatever. But she was just still really sleepy and losing her balance. And we just kind of attribute it to, oh, she's, getting her vision corrected. And, maybe she had double vision, or maybe she does have double vision and she's not able to say because that's normal to her. And then she was getting a little sleepy. So I took her she was always a terrible sleeper, I should say. We never got a full night's sleep. So I took her to the doctor complaining that my child, who never sleeps, was suddenly sleeping, because that was just weird to me. And that seems like a stupid reason to take someone to the pediatrician, but it was that gut feeling of like, no, this isn't my kid. My kid doesn't sleep. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but fine, we're going to come and get her tested. So we got a bunch of lab work done and different things. And they're like, well, maybe she's just still recovering from this eye surgery, even though it had been like a month and a half. And I was like, well, that seems weird, but okay, we'll go with what you said. They had us go to a neurologist just to kind of rule things out. So we went to the neurologist. Neurologist didn't really see anything and was like, all right, well, come back for an MRI in a week or a month or whenever we can fit you in. Nothing emergent, no big deal. And so we scheduled the appointment and we're kind of just going about our days. 2 days before she was diagnosed, we were at a theme park and we went on, all of the rides and she was running from here to there. She was fine. She was absolutely fine. We had a great time. The day before she was at a ballet class dancing around and you would never really, her steps were like, maybe she wasn't as fully committed as she usually would be, but she's 4, they can be moving, right. Maybe she was tired. And then she kind of fell asleep at like a summer camp thing that I knew she would really love. It was just like a couple hours long and she fell asleep right at the beginning. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, why would she fall asleep at this program, this art camp that she really liked? Mm. So we went ahead and we were just watching her, but we're like, well, all the tests came back. Like, what can we do? We were scheduling more appointments just to kind of keep ruling things out because something wasn't sitting right. Mm-hmm. And then she had gone through the whole day and she came home from running an errand with my husband and all of a sudden she was using her right arm to move her left. She was physically like leading her left arm. And I asked her, I'm like, well, why are you doing that? That's not funny. Like, that's not silly. Like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I just can't move my arm. Just really casual. Like, oh, I just can't move it. No big deal. I'm like, what do you mean you can't move your arm? She's like, no, it's just not working. It's like, well, did you bang it? Like what is causing your arm to not work? I don't know. It's fine. It doesn't hurt. Oh, okay. But this is concerning to me, and never in a million years would I have thought it would have been anything neurological. It just really didn't compute. Like, we got her tested. They said she was fine. We went to a neurologist. He said he was fine. She was fine. So, So that night we took her to the emergency room down in Portland and we were just like, look, her arm's not working. And we've had all these other things. Like, we need to figure something out. And they did an emergency MRI. They thought maybe she was having a stroke. So we were there waiting in the waiting room with my my new 1-year-old, and just kind of waiting. And I said to my husband, I'm like, oh, they think she might have had a stroke. And I'm like, but at least it's not a brain tumor. Like, we can get through a stroke. A friend of mine, his son had a stroke, and he's doing really well. So as long as it's not a brain tumor, we'll be okay. Which came to haunt me later. So we were admitted, and we got into our room, and we're settling in because at this point it was like 2 a.m. And we get in there, and the oncologist comes in, unbeknownst to me that he's an oncologist, and he says we found something in her brain. And our original diagnosis actually wasn't ATRT. Our original diagnosis was DIPG, because the tumor was located in the pons of the brain. So if you're in the cancer community, you probably have heard of DIPG. It's a pretty aggressive tumor in a very important area of your brain. So he told us that the survival chances were 0 and that she wasn't going to last probably more than 9 months. Wow. And obviously the world stopped turning for us, and I just threw up a lot because my whole world exploded. And I'm sitting here looking at this child who 2 days ago was on a roller coaster having a great time. Yesterday was at ballet class, and they're telling me she's not going to make it to kindergarten. And so from there they did additional testing, and in a stroke of good news, which sounds weird, they found more tumors, which was actually, as the oncologist described, good news in that it meant it wasn't likely to be DIPG, and offered a little bit of hope of survival. From 0, we went up to like 10 or 11% or something like that, which felt huge from 0. When you have 0 chances and you go to 11, you feel like you won the lottery. So so that was our ATRT journey. So she was 3 weeks before she had turned 4 that this all happened. So the first 3, almost 4 years of her life were completely medically boring, completely normal. And then bam, here we were. And then the rest of her ATR journey finished quite as fast as it started. So we had gone to Boston and met with Dr. Chi and the whole team there, and had some biopsies and started chemo and a whole bunch of things. And it was certainly inoperable because of the location in the ponds. You just can't get to it. but they were able to biopsy. And we were, of course, doing genetic testing to figure out whether we were carriers and how that would impact our other children or any future children. So as you can imagine, things were kind of insane. So we spent a lot of time down in Boston, but 2 months, just shy of 2 months after she was diagnosed, she passed away about 5 years ago now on October 19th. So that's our crazy ATRT journey. It was a flash in the pan. I was talking to you earlier. I feel like an imposter cancer patient as I don't speak all the lingo the way some of these more seasoned cancer patients, cancer parents do. But our journey was just so fast that we kind of got the baptism by fire, and then it was that quickly over. So
Absolutely.
it was a crazy ride.
Absolutely. Well, we remember Madeline tonight. We say her name and we continue her fight. And we thank you so much for sharing that. Even though it was brief, it was obviously powerful and impacted the course of your journey to today. In her memory, you started another organization. Would you mind talking a little bit about what the heart was behind that?
Sure. Yeah. So we started, I never really set out to start a nonprofit, but like I said, our cancer journey was so quick. When we kind of stepped out of it, I was like, well, what do we do now? And I had turned to the hospice group locally and our counselors and our nurses, who were all absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, we just couldn't find any resources specifically for bereaved parents. I was offered some classes or some groups for widows, and while that loss is certainly very significant, it just didn't feel like it sat the same way with me. I had lost my parents, I had lost my grandparents, and those losses were so much more different than the loss of my child. And I was looking for somebody who could understand the unique loss that is child loss. So seeing that there wasn't really that support, and I have to say the support from our community and our friends and our family was absolutely incredible. And I had joined some Facebook groups online and saw people in there every single day saying, oh, I just have no support and no one here gets it. And it really spoke to my heart because we had such amazing support. And even if they didn't fully understand child loss, they fed us, they did all these amazing things. They let us know they were thinking of her. And they still do to this day. We have an amazing community here in Maine. But I kind of felt, I could see that not everybody had that. And I really wanted to make sure that if anybody ever reached out, that they would have somebody to talk to. And so we started Madeline's Mission, which is a peer-to-peer support for bereaved parents. So no matter how you lost your child, it doesn't have to be a cancer loss or ATRT or anything specific. We do have a lot of pregnancy and infant loss as well in our groups. We support each other because every loss is significant, especially when it comes to a child. It's an out of order loss that isn't supposed to happen, but unfortunately it does. And talking about it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's a safe place for people to come together and talk about their loss and talk about their child and not feel like they're a Debbie Downer or bringing everybody down, or those are some things that people have said in the group. So it's a safe place to do that and come together and remember their child and just connect with other grieving parents who understand in a unique way that no one ever wanted to understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is an incredible resource for families out there, newly bereaved or been in this journey for a long time. It is a much needed resource. And thank you so much for offering that. If you are watching this video right now, I know I'll be putting her website. Actually, I'll do it now. Put the website in there. Please, please, please check it out. I know we're going to keep talking about it, but get connected with Amie and see when they're offering those programs, and see how you can get connected if you're feeling like you need some support in that area. Another great resource she has on her website is a reading list for bereaved families. And it's broken down really cool because it's broken down into, maybe it's a sibling or maybe it's a teenager versus a kid. It's got some really great resources, reading materials. So I encourage you to check that out as well. In addition to the peer-to-peer support, you're doing a lot of fundraising and giving to different opportunities. So I know you have the cuddle cots and things like that. So let's start about what you share about what you have been doing, and then we'll talk about what you're going to be doing soon.
Sure. So, a cuddle cot, for anybody who's not familiar, is a piece of hospital equipment, and it's a bassinet that allows a family that's had a loss of a child under the age of 1 to spend more time with that child. When your hellos are your goodbyes, you need all the time you can get. And honestly, this cuddle cot is amazing. You can keep the child in there for quite some time, and it just leaves everything in a much simpler, gives you more time to take pictures and dress your baby and bathe them and all of those things that you might be in too much shock to do initially. So we've bought 5 cuddle cots so far, and I have 2 more in my hallway right now. We need to go out with the plaques. We're just coming in, so I finally have my plaques. So I'm ready to deliver 2 more in the next 2 weeks. So I have 2 cuddle cots visiting me right now, but I'm eager to get them to their homes. We also do bereavement kits for funeral homes. One of the things that was really cool about our home health visiting nurse, Maggie, if you're watching, thank you. She was able to contact our child life department at the hospital and bring canvases for paints and handprints and a lot of last keepsakes that I treasure and hold very dear. So we do a lot of that. And then now we're starting a memorial garden locally in the Brunswick area of Maine, which is in the mid-coast. And our hope with the garden project is to create a space that people can come together and, again, heal together. We're all about community support and just supporting each other. We have some really lovely parents in our groups right now who support each other through all kinds of anniversaries and birthdays and reminders. But the garden, I hope, well, first let me describe it. It's a butterfly garden. So it'll be a beautiful space. There's a little pond there. There's herons and ducks that visit there all the time. But they're these metal butterflies that people can then personalize with the name of their child. And I really envision it being a space that people who go on to have more children or other family members, or it's a nice way to be able to visit it and talk about your loved one in a softer way than you would maybe at a cemetery or another place of memorial. Because it'll be more whimsical, it'll be lighter. It's supposed to feel childlike and welcoming. So I can take my youngest, who never got to meet her sister on Earth, and say, oh, look, there's your sister's butterfly. And look at all these other butterflies that are here. She has all these butterfly friends up in heaven or whatever you may believe. She has all these friends here. See how you're not alone. When I was younger, my dad died when I was young. And I was the only person aside from my brother that I knew who had lost their parent. So I wanted to be able to create a space for siblings to come together and see that they aren't alone in having a sibling not growing up with them on Earth, and be able to talk about that, and even just to see the other names. So even if they never talk to another bereaved sibling, they can say, well, look, there's all these other butterflies here. So I must not be the only one who feels like this. So the garden, we have a lot of big ideas for it, but we're at the very beginning of the fundraising process and trying to get the funds to make it happen. But we have a beautiful gift of space from our local hospital, the Mid-Coast Parkview, that far exceeded ever what we would have dreamed to do with this garden. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it should be amazing when it's done. So can't wait to see how it turns out.
That's amazing. That is absolutely going to be beautiful. And if you'd like to be a part of that at all, continue to follow her on her social media and on her website. You can make donations if you'd like to make that butterfly garden a reality. It's going to be a beautiful space. So we'll have to all make a trip up there to see it when it's finally.
Well, and we thought we could do, Mother's Day is do butterfly releases or fall bulb planting. So it's going to be a space that we can all kind of visit and nurture together. When you lose your child, you really feel called to continue parenting them in some way. So if we can nurture this garden, it might fill a little bit of that hole. It'll never obviously replace the child or the feeling of longing, but having something to nurture can be really healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being in that space and for continuing to create new spaces for families to journey together. It's going to be so beautiful. If you don't mind sharing as we wrap up, maybe a couple of things for our bereaved families, maybe some just any sort of words of wisdom that you may have for them.
I think the biggest thing is that grief can feel really isolating, and that even if you have incredible support, like we were lucky enough to have, there are moments where you just get into your own heart because the pain is so deep. Um, but just remember that that's the grief talking, it's the anxiety, and that you aren't alone. And if you want it, I don't care if you're not in Maine, please reach out to Madeline's Mission. I will find someone closer to you, or I will listen to you. But please don't give up. You know, you are the advocate for your child, even if they're not here. So you can continue their story. You can keep speaking for them. You can keep their legacy going. And it doesn't mean you have to start a nonprofit or do all these crazy garden projects and stuff like that. But it can be as simple as doing an act of kindness, and it keeps their name alive. So please don't feel like you're alone. And if you are alone, come find us, and you're always welcome with us.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Anything else to share before we close?
Oh, I'm sure I could talk your ear off all night. I'm known for that. But no, I really appreciate this forum and the work that you're all doing. Like I said, our ATRT journey was brief, but it really is a lovely community of people who are sharing their wealth of knowledge. So I appreciate the work that you're all doing, and that all the other ATRT parents are doing as well. So my heart goes out to all of you still fighting, and stay hopeful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Amie, for the work that you are doing. And I'm so glad that we could connect tonight. Thank you all for watching. Again, connect with Madeline's Mission on her website. We also have additional Grieve resources on our website as well. I'll put that link in the comments as well. Please continue to support each other through this journey. Share September. So continue just to spread awareness and donate where you can. To research and to organizations that are fighting for childhood cancer. So thank you again. Thank you for supporting us in this way. And we look forward to connecting with you all again in the future. Have a great night.